Chapter 1 A Growing Shadow. Alone the owl soared over the tree line of the Crescent Valley, an open challenge of CastleOak. The old tree's branches, bare and ugly, pierced the canopy of swaying green leaves. The rotten tree proclaimed the dark times in the forest under the rule of the tyrant who lived there. It pained old Aladon when he remembered what CastleOak had once been. Few of his fellow guardians still believed their old civilization could be restored. And yet he flew north toward CastleOak, testing the limits of his nerve with each beat of his wings. If I could draw out Belfar, thought old Aladon, if I could end the tyranny alone without risking all the creatures in a horrible war. The sound of the hawk's cry was sudden. It carried on the wind with a deadly chill. Instantly, old Aladon began climbing to battle height. He could not look back. He pushed his old wings harder than he had in years, knowing somewhere behind him the hawk was rising to answer the challenge. A shadow streaked through the owl's vision. No longer golden, Belfar's feathers had tarnished and become black. Old Aladon saw the bird of prey turn toward him. How different he looked from the radiant hawk who had saved the forest from the wolf invasion. High in the air, the two warriors turned to fight. The shock of their collision threw them both into a dangerous downward spiral. Tangled in the hawk's enormous wingspan, old Aladon fought to break free, to climb back into the sky. Talons, long bony knives, clawed at his eyes. Pain seared through him as one talon caught the owl under the chin. The top of CastleOak flipped by. A twisted white branch barely missed the two falling rivals. Old Aladon sensed the ground rushing up to break his body. With a desperate thrust, his beak found its way through the hawk's thick feather guard and drew blood. Suddenly, the hawk let go. Old Aladon was free. He stretched out his wings and thrashed them together just in time to stop the course of his fall. Belfar raced high into the clouds, and the owl recognized the strategy of a mighty dive to cut down one's opponent. Old Aladon hovered over CastleOak, shouting up at the climbing hawk. "You were great once, Belfar!" cried the owl. "Must it be war?" The hawk reached its zenith, and for a moment time stopped as the great bird hung suspended in the air. Then Belfar turned and aimed his black beak straight at the owl's heart. Reluctantly, the owl began his retreat. Blood was flowing heavily from his wound. He needed what strength he had left to reach the others with this news. But at least he was not the only one who would carry a reminder of this day. Old Aladon smiled, knowing that the old hawk could still be wounded after all.